Welcome back to the Always Right podcast. I'm author Carissa DeLay, and this is,
Jamie Vendera.
well, Happy New Year to everyone. This is going to be a cool topic on our New Year's resolutions, which, most people never keep, but we're hoping we can keep them.
Yeah, this is actually the second week of January.
Yeah,
We just
second week of January. Missed the first week, but
Yeah.
hey, first week you got to talk about we got to talk about AI. So
yeah.
So in the second week of January, we've decided to do a New Year's resolution for writers and us as writers. So first topic is the water bottles.
Yeah. So my New Year's resolution is to keep me all fluid. Like I'm not wet enough. I wake up, I take a shower, I shake my hair, and I come down here all wet. My shirt's soaked, but I gotta have my water. And I thought, you know what? What better way to start off the year than get more water? This isn't enough for me, so I might end up with maybe another.
Well, according to the last episode, that's not enough for you. The last episode, oh my gosh, here we are. It's like a baby bottle. You literally look like you're chugging a baby bottle. A world record of nonstop drinking water. All right.
I was going to continue. I'll let you talk for a little
All
bit.
right, for reals though. All right, so one of the New Year's resolutions that Jamie and I have decided that we're going to hold each other to is we are going to write more. And so, what are you going to write this year, Jamie?
You know, I love having you as a partner. You're more of an accountability partner, honestly, in this, because I've written so much and we've discussed this, and you go to Vendera Publishing and you click on the 7-Eleven Press link, and there's all these books. And there's like maybe 10, 11, 12 that are not released. This is coming soon. So I finished a lot of book covers, but I haven't finished all of the series we wrote. So there's one called Age of the Sigil. And there's a fourth book that I have to finish in that. And me, with all the squirrels in my life, I was talking to my grandson before Christmas. He's like, hey, dude, he calls me grand dude. My teacher wants us to read something over Christmas break. So I'm going to read the Spitfire book. So that's a YA series where a boy becomes a partial dragon. And I wrote it about him. He's the main character. Now,
you had mentioned this one. You had mentioned this topic and how he was going to help you co-write.
Yeah.
In this one, you had mentioned that, but you said that maybe he's just not ready for that.
Well, I picked him up Friday before New Year's. He lives in Cincinnati, so we didn't get to see him on Christmas. And I'm like, okay. And I sent him the PDFs. So Spitfire and the Dragon's Tomb was the first one. These are short books for kids. They're like 80, 90, 100 pages long. They're not huge. And I'm like, okay, how's it going? He's like, yeah, dude, I haven't finished it, but I'm in it. I'm like, okay, what chapter are you on? And he goes, 6, Newey's line. I was like, oh, cool. So tell me so far about what you've learned in the book. And he goes, his mom told me he read 2 or 3 pages and that was it. And then it was like a squirrel.
When you're 10, 11, you're like, I'm distracted. I got things I want to do.
And I understand, which I told him what I started doing. And this is actually part of my New Year's resolution, since we have to finish these books. The thing when you're writing a series, you have to stay on point. So I have to go back and watch it. It's like if a new Netflix show comes out and it's season 3, I am a nutcase. I have to go back and watch season 1, season 2, season 3 to remember everything, because I will forget. And I'm like, oh,
I think it just depends on how long, though. How long it's been since this,
I got a short-term memory. If it's 6 months, we'll go ahead and rewatch it. So,
but I've said that. So some people do not want to start a book that is a series unless the series is complete. So that's why this morning I said to you,
yep,
you have to complete a series so I can market it on Vendera. Because people are like, I'm not going to start it because you're not finished with it.
Well, yeah, you scalded me this morning because you're like, hey, I love that you're talking about that with your grandson. And I'm going through and making my character list and summaries about the first 2 books that are out, which it's done. But I promised you, I'm like, okay, now I'm hopping into Age of the Sigil. And that's a little harder because those books are around, 60 to 80,000 words a piece. So, and the other books are like, woo, it's only 25, 30,000 words. But I'm doing that.
Yeah, but you have more books in that series, so that's going to take you technically longer.
Yeah. So my plan is I want to finish Sigil, and I'll probably look at like the Mermaids and Aliens series, like
Yep, that was
finishing.
actually my next thing. Was like when you're done with that one, then we need to finish
Yeah, because
RNA
DNA, we'll finish RNA, we'll finish Siren Dark Waters, and we can complete the book. But the
and do it.
thing
Yeah.
is, with the Spitfire, those are easy for me. I can literally have fun with them, even if they don't come out next. It's at least part of my resolution. We can get on FaceTime. And I'm like, hey, did you read the books? Yeah. Okay, here's what I got planned for book 3. What does it make you think of? And I'll let him be involved in that way. And there's, I said there were 8 books in that series, and this is how far behind I am. As I'm reading, I'm like, oh, crud. There's not. There's 11 books because there's a bronze, silver, and gold dragon that I haven't gotten into, but my plan was you got to go back in time with the series, and so after the 8 books, it's like comes back to 2024 with Holden, and then it's in real life time. Like, oh, I am the Spitfire. I'm reincarnated, and now I got to bring back these other dragons. So yes, for me, logically, the smart thing, of course, is Age of the Sigil. I love that series. Last year we finished Order of 5. So there's 3 books in that series. We had what is wrong with Shifters? Shifters 2 came out, and
that
the
was a
thing,
duology. Yeah.
yeah, and the thing people don't know unless they really get in and read the duology and the trilogy Order 5, they're tied in together. It's a 5-book series. It's just a different story arc, but like the teenagers in the Order 5 compared to the one main teen in Shifters, they have the same powers. They get their powers the same way through the government, and it's tied in, and there's a lot of similar scenes in both. So I feel like that arc is done, and I know we have to finish Mafia and stuff, but Age of the Sigil will be the easiest for me. So
Well, Age of the Sigil is just one book to finish, and then put them in one big book, and then you can maybe print the whole.
yeah,
Say like you don't have to buy all 4 separate. Just buy one book with
yeah.
all the episodes of it in there.
Unless we do 2 books. I don't know yet. Maybe we'll talk to Daniel. I'd rather have be one big book.
One big book that looks like very like medieval.
Yes, you just read my mind. Like
Yes, medieval, and you have all the symbols like coming together and like almost have an embossed look to it.
yeah, because it's almost like an ancient book, and like it's got
Mm-hmm.
the information of how the sigils came. So
Mm-hmm.
isn't this crazy? We're in a podcast, and this is how our creative minds work. We're like,
Yep.
all right, we're already designing the book cover.
Yep.
Now you're gonna make me put an old book in Age of the Sigil, the 4th book, that's like that with the 4 symbols on there, and then so it ties in. So when the actual print book comes out, it's like, wait a minute, that's in book 4. That's in the very end of the book. So
Yeah, you can kind of almost, because each book has like its own kind of scene in the background. You have like,
yep.
and you can mesh all 4 scenes, one scene, but have the different colors from all 4 coming in together to make that one. You're welcome.
Yep. We're on the same page. So
which is interesting because I feel that I visualize images when I'm writing anyway, so I have to envision it. So just kind of like your covers, I have to envision that for it to like, oh yes, that's what I want to do.
Not the same way. I've been a daydreamer since like middle school, and I could always see me flying or turning into a werewolf or riding a unicorn, something crazy. And so that's how I do when I'm writing a book.
Do you want to know, ironically, what I would always dream about?
Murder.
No.
Okay.
It's so funny. I would listen to WNCI in Columbus because that was the pop hit music for the Columbus area. And I would hear like pop music at the time, and I would play it on my little alarm clock. And I would, and I'm not saying still today, but I would, since probably in the past time, maybe not like recently, but even into my 20s and 30s, I would envision myself like being a part of a concert and being this amazing singer. I can't sing, but it was like this whole like in like world of like I was like I had some amazing voice.
You
are a voice coach.
What's funny, I don't think I ever really daydreamed that a lot. I mean, I go to a concert, like I remember seeing David Lee Roth, and it got me excited. It's like, oh, I wish I was up there doing that. Now, every time I've done a gig or a TV show, I do have this process where I visualize what's happened. So I like, if I'm on a big stage, I always already visualize it like a half an hour before, like, oh, it's done and over and everybody loved it. But that's just more of a mindset thing to keep me
Oh, I
focused.
do that when I go to family reunions. I'm like already envisioned the conversations I wanted to have and not have, and the food I was going to eat and not eat.
I've never done that, but if I would think of our backwoods Kentuckian, and this is not my main family, my wife's. Shh, what did I say once to her?
Sorry, Diane.
Christmas with the Clampets. She'll laugh about it. But I can envision going to that family reunion and like throwing potato salad. I'm done. My noodles are better than your noodles, and leaving. So
That's funny.
that's too much
That's funny.
information. Calm down, squirrel. All right. So, New
Yeah.
Year's
So okay,
resolution 1.
let's
Right.
listen to what are we going to write? So I'm going to finish Canvas. I've been pretty good at like I changed up some stuff. I've been actually
Yeah, we
hot
just
on
talked about this
writing.
too.
Huh?
I'm assuming with the podcast changing the job description to one of the characters. That was for Canvas or something else.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I texted you the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did change the description of one of the characters from being a reporter to a podcaster, and she podcasts on murders. So yeah,
Good.
her and her co-host, and they're recording a live crime scene. Yeah. Because there was some information. I was like, I don't know, a reporter really wouldn't get this. I'm like, oh, I could do a podcaster. Like she's doing all these things, and she gets this tip to be there for this
Exactly.
this scene. So yeah, and I'm trying to decide whether it. But see, if I sent you a message. I'm like, should I call it OOH for like Ohio? O murder, and they only discuss murders in Ohio, or do we do a play on always right and do always murder?
Yeah, and I wasn't going to say anything because I thought that's probably a secret you don't want anyone to know yet.
I don't
And
care.
I don't know. I'm torn because I love Always Murder because it's a nod to us. But like, oh, murder! It's like that's like they could be like today on Oh Murder.
It reminds me of Murder She Wrote. I love that
Yes.
show. Love that show, Murder She
Yes.
Wrote. So it kind
Oh
of
my
reminded me of that.
gosh! My friend Jeff Rivera is actually he's talking about writing some stuff. He said he's been watching Murder She Wrote. He said,
I
man, it's
love it.
just
Angela
yes,
Lansbury.
yes. He's like he's so into it.
Yes.
He's like I love it.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Either way, whichever one I do. So, the Always Murder does not exist as a podcast. So I thought, how cool would it be to like create like a shirt and like have like merchandise to go with the book? Like I'm already like marketing this whole like non-existent podcast.
Yeah, and then if you take on that persona, you can actually put out that podcast.
Right?
People would eat it up. My wife every morning when she's getting ready, I hear her, and then they thought they would get away with it, but they found the knife underneath the bed. So it's always the murder podcast that she's listening
And
to.
that's the thing. Like there's times I love Morbid, and I like to listen to some of the cases from like true crime, the crime garage, things like that. But there's times when they're doing stuff and they're like, I don't know. I'm sitting there thinking, this seems like a simple solve. Why didn't we think of this situation, you know?
Yeah,
But
you get through so many, you're like, amateur, you know not to do that or you're going to get caught.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like I didn't listen to murder podcasts until I started writing the serial killer novel for research because, I mean, it wasn't my genre. I'm into aliens and other things like that. So for me, I had to kind of get on that world.
And
then,
now
you
me
know,
and Dylan both got to be scared because our wives are really super smart
we
about
know
how to bury a
we know
body.
how to bury a body and no one find it.
Yeah. So, you know what? You really do. Quit putting it off. Oh, I'm going to write a book. I seen, and I'm not knocking this person. Everyone has the right to be an author, but somebody just yesterday is like, cat's out of the bag. I'm just letting you all know on Facebook, I'm writing a book now. And I'm like, okay, that's great to tell it, but it's like, don't just tell it. Do it. And someone's like, oh, what are you writing about? Well, I'm going to do a short thing on poems, and I got this idea about some thing. I'm like, that's cool. I like to see how you progress if you actually do it, or it's like a New Year's resolution. I've been talking about writing a book for 13 years, and I'm going to finally do it. I don't like to. I'm very private and quiet, so I see like even coaches and authors are like, guess what? I'm going to be on this television show. I never announce anything before it's happened. Like I wait and I don't let anyone know I'm gone, and then I'm like, okay, I've been on tour with Megadeth, or hey, finally this book's out. That's probably poor marketing on my part, but I just have this mindset that marketing wise, I wouldn't care. But back when I was writing Raise Your Voice, my first book, and this is to help you with your New Year's resolution, I said forever, I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book. Started in 2000. And I remember being working construction, running bridges, and one of my workers said, dude, shut up about it. Either do it or not do it. You
Mm-hmm.
talking about it every day. How much did you write this week? Ah, man, I didn't really write anything. Well, then shut up. Do it. But and
So you should get a hold of that friend and say thank you.
yeah. Well, no, there was other things. What did he say to me? He says, "You'll never be nothing but a dumb old iron worker like the rest of us." And then I love the guy. He was a sweet guy. Don't get me wrong. It's just that
Sounds like it.
mentality. And then I had some of those workers. I was on another job, and they're calling me like, "You, dude, you were just on MythBusters." I'm like, no way. I'm like, and I've known for months, and I couldn't say anything, nor did I want to till it came out. But it's like, you can be anything you want. Don't let people tell you. If that's why you haven't started writing your book, is because your brother, your sister, a construction worker, someone at work says, you just shut up about it. You know what? I agree with them in that point, but do it. Don't let them beat you down to where you're not doing it. Like, I can't do it. I don't know proper grammar. I don't know how to get my book cover designed.
Mm-hmm.
All that will fall in place if you take action. Forget like the law of attraction. Take the law of action. Actually do it. Get started. Which leads us to another resolution. If you're going to do this, you need to pick a time.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Commit to writing a certain time of day. We've had the episode where we've discussed night or day or middle of the day. You just need to decide where you are going to set time itself away for yourself and your book. Okay.
yeah.
You need to make that say, okay, I'm going to do this. This is the best time of day for me. And I'm going to do it.
And I started that actually because of you. I mean, you were, and I love you for this. You really pushed me. But years ago, I used to get up at like 5 a.m. and write. And since COVID, I haven't. It was like pulling teeth to finish. The books we released with Shifters and Order 5. But we got it done. We got the Spitfires done, and I started thinking, you know what? That's what's been missing in my life. I love writing, and the books are not going to write themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm going through and reading and summarizing. I do it every morning. But you do something that's equally important, even with setting your time, whether you're like Chris and you do it late at night or middle of the day, or like me in the morning. Do what Carissa does. You'll be in the car, you've told me, and you're like, you got an idea, and you'll do audio and transcribe it, or you'll be like, oh, I got an idea for a scene, and you're talking, or I don't know if you use text to speech like I do. Of course, if you use text to speech like I do, then that's a whole
It may
other
be a
can of
completely
worms.
different book.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, what language is this in? But if
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
idea hits you, write it. If you wake up in the middle of the night, write it. Do something. Take an audio file recording just so you have it.
Yeah, typically mine I write it down. Yeah, like I will do the talk to text, but in a note. And
Yep.
sometimes I'll text it to you. Sometimes I'll put it in a note thing. Whatever it is, I'll just make sure it's out there so I can. And always if I'm texting you, I put book idea. So then
Yep.
if I need to go back through and look for it, I can find book idea. Where
Yeah.
did I text Jamie that? So it gets it in there. And honestly, some of those book ideas have been literally in my head, beating on the door, saying, "Hey, can you finish Canvas? Because we really need to get out of here."
Yeah.
And so, like, I really want to write this book about my aunt. And there's a couple other ideas. I told you this week I had an idea. I'm not going to share it yet because I don't want that one to get stolen.
Yep.
But I have several ideas I want to get out. So I'm going to work on Canvas, get it done, and yeah.
My worries for everybody listening is if you're like, oh, new year, new me, I'm going to do this. Everybody buys a gym membership, and then they start in January, and then they're done by February. A lot
We
of
bought a
people aren't.
treadmill.
Yeah. Well, hopefully use it. I got one. I try to use it at least 3 to 5 times a week. But
Yeah,
the
we bought a
point is,
treadmill, and I'm dedicated. I'm gonna walk.
well, you can even do that. I don't know if you're like, because I can write on a treadmill. I can put my iPad up there, or I'll watch a show, and that gets me really going and moving. But the point is if you commit to a time and you start this, I wouldn't fly out the gate like I'm going to do it at 9 p.m. every night and 9 p.m. to 10:30 every time. don't put a time limit on it. Just pick this starting time, because I'm afraid that some of you be like an hour for 2 weeks, and then you're like, oh, I missed a day because I had to do this, and then I can barely get 15 minutes in, and then you quit.
Yeah.
Just commit to opening up your computer, your iPhone, and start writing. And if it only lasts 10 minutes, that's okay. If it's 2 hours, that's okay. If you don't set a actual time limit, at least this is for me. You might disagree with this, and I'm cool if you do. But it's just opening up and getting started on it. Because if you start missing days, it's you're going to lose it. You're not going to finish your book.
Or even something you can do, which I do, like, so I print off so where I'm going back and revising, I have my digital notes that I've already have for every chapter, but I'm rearranging some stuff. So as before I go ahead and start changing and making it confusing for me, I printed off like just a basic, um, chart where it has chapter number, location, time, characters, or a chapter description, and like random things that I need to know about the chapter. Anything I may have changed that I need to adjust my notes. So I just print this off. So chapter 1, some of this is basically staying the same. Oh, I added this part. Oh, and don't forget that you did this here. And then in chapter 2, I added these 2 characters. I took out these other 2 characters, and this is what I changed. So when I go back into my notes, I put them in there. So it's keeping me focused. And excuse me, whenever I am just not really technically writing because I'm maybe have writer's block on getting it down on the page, I will write something just note wise that reminds me what I'm thinking necessarily, but not the actual words. Like, okay, I know I want an image like this. I just don't know how to write it right now. So then when I come back, I'm like, oh, I know how to write that now. Put it out there.
No, that's great. You
So
got
you're
to be
still writing.
very proud of me right now,
Oh, why? Because we
because
didn't say you're bored.
I know I heard
I
you.
waited.
I was like, I want to be professional about this for
Mm,
once, but
for
here I
once.
am being immature, and I was like, I didn't say I'm bored.
I was waiting. I was
Yes.
waiting. It's fine.
And did you? But your face is so straight. You're talking. I'm like,
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to interrupt.
I'm gonna wait to the end.
All right. So make a commitment. We're going to make a commitment to, I mean, just write once a day. Like, kind of like, you know what? I do better. Like, right when my kids are getting ready for school, I can jot some stuff down. Or I can just like do an outline real quick. And then later on in the evening before I go to bed, I can maybe expound on that a little bit. I can expand my thought process on what I was thinking this morning because I can
I
think about it all day.
I love that you just said that, because we're talking about commit to a time. So if you choose day or night, there's no sin in also writing again.
Yeah.
If you're like, I'm doing
Don't tell the night that I wrote this morning.
exactly. So if you're feeling inspired, do something. Write down
Mm-hmm.
notes so you don't miss it, because you will wake up, or at the end of the day or in the morning, you will forget what came to your mind. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll be like, damn, I had a great plot and now I've lost it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing. Like, we know that you had mentioned like people exercise, and this is the thing. A lot of times with New Year's resolutions, I feel like people make resolutions that are not who they are. So
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, I am not a workout guru. I don't like to work out. I don't mind walking. I don't mind doing the elliptical or whatever randomly, but I am definitely not someone who is going to ever give a resolution that I'm going to work out more because I know I'm lying. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do it.
I'm
But
cyclical with that.
yeah.
Like I'll do the walking and talking videos when I'm like, I need to be walking, I need to be running, I need to be doing
Mhm.
something. Then I won't do it for months.
But if you are saying you're an author, if you are an author, that's not changing a resolution. You are already an author. So if you're an author, commit to something you
Mm.
already are. Commit to the writing. So I'm an author. I need to commit to the writing. I'm not committing to something I'm not actually, trying to be that I'm not. So I'm not trying to create a new me. I'm just expounding on who I already am. So
Yeah.
that's what this resolution is about, is becoming a better version of yourself, who you already are, not something that you don't want to do. I'm not trying to be a singer. I'm not trying to take voice lessons from Jamie. I'm not trying to be a marathon runner. I'm trying to put out a book that I promised myself I would do. So,
No, I love that. You are an author today. Even if you haven't released your first book, you are an author.
yeah,
So
it's in your head. Get it out
yeah,
on paper.
act like one.
Yes, which brings us to our last, well, not last, next to last resolution. Our thought process is, if you're an author And maybe rope in a friend to help you with this part of the resolution, but be more active in your social media presence with your writing. Share your process as far as like, it's one thing to say, I'm writing a book, like you said, this person, but it's another to do it. So, like, be like, oh, I'm writing, my character, give kind of like little snippets, little teases, create a fan page. Don't, maybe once you've decided more in your book and it's on the way, create a fan page so that when that book comes out, people are already interested in buying it, but get it out there.
It's so funny that you mentioned this. I film a lot with Sean Daniel Media, and so there's a little television studio about 20 minutes from me. So his partner, the guy who owns the TV studio, Brad Bear, he says we were talking one day. He says, you never talk about your books. He's like, how many fiction books have you written? I said, close to 30. He's like, why do I not know this?
Mm-hmm.
And
What do I always say?
yeah, and I'm like, okay, and you know what? You look at social media, and here's the hardcore facts. If you want to make it as author, you have to be participatory. I'm old school. I'm a fossil. My problem was I was on MythBusters and Good Morning America. I've done dozens of TV shows all over the world. They were there for me. I didn't go seeking them. I didn't have to make YouTube videos for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I had help from my coach Jim Gillette, obviously, but it wasn't
You're
like,
raised
hey,
in the whole word of mouth era.
word of mouth, exactly what it is. So I see like young authors and young vocal coaches that are blowing up, and bless them for it because they're excited and are doing videos. And so like my teams, like Dr. Vox, they push me. I'm doing more videos, but this is the year. That's actually one of my resolutions, to go through and summarize all my books. And I don't even know if I want to call it anything like, book in a nutshell or something, but I'm going through every book as soon as I summarize it and filming a video in here. I'll probably have the book cover back here and talking about Spitfire, Age of the Sigil, and doing like a 1 or 2 minute breakdown of the book to spit that out. And then you can cut that up and make smaller segments for
Mm-hmm.
TikTok. But nobody's going to read your book if they don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I
that's
think,
on
and
me.
that's the thing. And we've talked about this in Zero Writing. So you literally just need to tell the book as if you were telling yourself the story. What are the
Yes.
points? And I struggled with that for a little while and figuring out how to sell my book without making it seem like it's so many different things. So I got to the main points that it's the devil is looking to reset Eden, and in the process of resetting Eden, he comes in the pathway of his destiny.
Yeah.
The problem is the path of his destiny is not interested in him because his path in destiny, she's decided on where she's headed, and she's not looking for something, but he's looking for something. So it's kind of like both have free agency, both are on this path. Will their paths merge? How is it going to go? Like, she's a descendant of Eve. She has the fruit of Eden that's been crystallized into quartz crystal that contains all the information of Eden. And so it's all these things. I'm like, you got these two stories that are coming together, and like, which way is it going to go?
Yeah, so like, and if you're already an established author and you have several, like you listening is like, oh, it pulls me into the book. But like, think about you're pitching a show to Netflix, or you watch this movie and you're like, oh, I love it. No, spoiler alert. Let me tell you about it, because I know you're not going to go see it, but I want you to tell you because it's so good. So you're selling your product, but you're also trying to tell this story. So we urge all of you who have already written books to do that. If you're on the
Revamp,
path,
yeah.
yeah, if you're on the path to finishing that first book, then yeah, you can let, like Krista said, little snippets out, like, hey, I finally finished chapter 13. Now, you're not going to believe this. It's a crazy plot twist. Now, I know if you've been
Mhm.
following me, you know that this one guy, we always thought he was the murderer, but is he? So, and you don't give it
Mhm.
away, of course. You want them to read your book, but
Mhm.
give them enough to really pull them in and want to buy your product.
Well, yeah, and if your book isn't, that's another thing, new resolution. If your book isn't selling, you're like, man, my book's not selling. I don't understand. Maybe revisit how you've expressed the back cover. Maybe revisit how you're putting it out there. Maybe it's kind of like the friend in the office that can't shut up. Maybe you've told too much, and you're too wordy. Maybe kind of what kind of things when you read the back of a book, when you go to Barnes and Noble or Books a Million, go turn those books over. Go see what's catching people's eyes to make those bestsellers and come off the shelf. It's not
That's
these long synopsis.
no.
They're like 2, 3 paragraphs. They got points. There's like kind of read those and be like, okay, I see what they're doing. And now go back to your book and revisit and like put that out on social media. Let's redo this. Let's figure out how people are going to want to read your book.
Yeah, I mean that's when I was back in the young, way back in the before they had dirt or bread, and I would go to a bookstore. I'm pretending I'm old. I'm not really that old.
before
But
they cultivated wheat.
yeah, if there was a bunch of fantasy books, it was always reading the back, and if it gave me enough information to let me hang myself and be like, wait a minute. You're not telling me what's going on. Is there really a magic sword? That's what pulled me in. I didn't really want a full synopsis of it. I wanted something that made me want to know what is going on in this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Make it to where if someone reads the last page of your book, they're like, oh, I really need to read the beginning of this book because I need to know why this is this way.
Yep.
Like, oh, I read the last page and it's not interesting.
All right.
All right. So the last and final New Year's resolution that we have for everyone, including Jamie and our listeners and some of our viewers. No,
we
it's
already
not
covered. Okay.
We already covered your water bottle.
I forgot.
It's trying to make its presence again. No, listen and watch Always Right podcast
Absolutely.
on YouTube. Go ahead.
That should be the number one resolution. We should have
Right.
started with that.
Well, we saved the best for last.
Yes.
Yes, be a subscriber on YouTube. Get your friends to follow that one. We have it on Spotify. Make sure you're listening there, on Amazon Music, on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're listening. Make sure you're liking on our socials. Make sure you're liking on YouTube. Get those. We just want to get those people out there and spread the word. You got an author friend who's struggling? Share this. Be like, hey, listen to this podcast. There might be something in there that they can help you with.
And you created a landing page where they can get a hold of everything by clicking on little icons. Where's that at?
Yes, we had to walk Jamie through this morning because he's
That's
old.
where the fossil thing's coming in. Like, I'm old.
He's like, hey, do we have like a way that like people can? I'm like, yeah, there's a landing page on alwaysrightpodcast.com. You could go on there and there's these little icons. It looks like Spotify, it looks like YouTube, it looks like Twitter, it looks like all of the little social media icons. You hit those and it takes you directly to them.
I was too dumb. And I was today's years old when I realized, and I know that because I have it on jamievendera.com. But you're like, well, for people like you, instead of saying, listen, what I can put, click on the icon below.
I guess I can give fossil directions.
Yeah, big arrow pointing down, light it up.
Here it is.
So there you go.
As always, another great podcast with just, you know what, we had a few squirrels, but not too many.
Yeah.
Maybe they're hibernating.
I'll bring them out.
No. Next. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you for listening. As always, I'm your host, Carissa DeLay, author from Vendera Publishing, and with my co-host,
Jamie Vendera,
author and publisher.
So remember, always right. Every single day.
Yes. Until next time, thanks for listening.